So you got the video I sent you of the Bugatti, like the old Bugatti startup?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, it takes like 30 seconds minimum to start this car up because you have to do like five different switches. And then at one point you're like pumping I guess the fuel pressure or something. It takes like 30 pumps to get to it. And all I could think about was the owner of this can't you can't have this car and be mad at somebody because if you're mad at your girlfriend and you're like, ah, screw this, I'm
Gotta go
leaving.
start my car.
And like you're just sitting there waiting, you're turning like the five switches, and then you get to the pump thing, and she's just like knocking on your window, like, "Hey, babe, just wait, babe." And you're just like, if you were listening to the audio, just imagine someone pumping really hard, like pumping up a ball really hard, and trying to do that with respect and
Okay.
keep. But if you're watching the video version of this, you can see just the pumping and pumping and pumping, and he's like, "I'm leaving," and just peels off. I don't even think you can peel off it. But yeah, this was. If you want to look up the video, look up. Let me pull it up real quick. The 1931 Bugatti Type 51 Dubos coupe. If you play GTA, you know which car I'm talking about. But yeah, it's fascinating. I love the way it starts up, but at the same time, I was like, man, it's a Saturday drive car, not I'm mad at my wife, I'm gonna storm out car. So
Takes a little while to get going.
yeah, just a little bit. But all right, let's jump in.
Episode 2.
In a way. All right, welcome to 10 Away. I'm Owen Hickman as always, and I'm here with my co-host Blake Hickman, whose chair either got bigger or he got smaller.
This is my racing sim seat. So
Oh, brag
I
about
uh,
it.
I I kind of want to sit in this week. It's honestly it's really comfortable. If anybody else does a lot of sim racing and if they've invested in a nice seat, it's probably comfortable. So this might be where I actually sit from here on out. It's kind of fitting. It's a racing
It is.
podcast.
Yeah.
So why not
I
sit in
s-
a racing seat?
that gives me an excuse to buy a racing seat myself.
There you go.
Yeah, babe, I have to for the podcast. The
Let's have
one
a
day a
racing
week.
seat.
Yeah. I already have like a NASCAR hat and mug that I only use on Sundays or Saturdays. But yeah. All right, let's jump into the truck race. Let's see my notes here. Yeah. Chandler Smith wins. Larson had a chance at the end, but I don't think he had the short run truck. If anything, he may have had a long run truck for it. But yeah, the way it panned out, I actually thought him and Lane Riggs were the two that, if the truck race was any longer, I think they would have been there. But again, we're talking about ifs. Uh, but it was interesting. I think tire wear is going to be a conversation for the whole week, for the whole weekend's recap. But yeah, what did you see in the truck race?
Yeah, I actually got to be a fan this weekend. So for
Oh
those
yeah,
that
you didn't
don't
go.
know, I didn't get to go to the truck race. I woke up Friday morning around 5 a.m. not feeling good. My wife and daughter had a stomach bug this week, and I thought that's what I was getting. I ended up playing it safe. Had to call in for a backup guy to go. So I actually got to sit at home and watch the truck race, watch my guys and all my friends that actually are in the sport. But I thought overall it was a solid race.
Well, real quick, what does a sick day look like for a pit crew member? Like,
Ooh, so that's a good question. Honestly, there's most of the time you're gonna try to go to the track and do your job. Like, I mean, you have to think of it as like we're picked to be on what team, and we're kind of like the best of the best for our position or for our team. So anytime you're trying to go to a backup, me as at least for my mentality, I want to always try to go as much as I can, unless there's like it's a pretty bad situation. I wasn't sure of the outcome of, if this stomach bug was going to get worse or if it was going to get better. So for that, I was like, I'm going to try to wait it out for a little bit and see if it changes, and nothing did. The irony in is I ended up feeling okay by evening, but I couldn't take that risk if I got to the track and then it got worse.
hmm
And then there's no backup there at the track for me. That's something that we have to plan accordingly and plan ahead of time. So about 10:30 Friday morning, I texted my coach. We got a hold of our backup guy. His name is Gio. He's really, really cool. So he filled in for me on truck and Xfinity day on Lane's truck and Jeremy Clement's Xfinity car. But yeah, that's something that is it's
Is
not
there like a backup pool to take from, or
so how it works for it.
I
Every
just
team's
have
a
a
little
hard
bit
time
different.
imagining excess of guys in this.
Yeah, so it's not like they're just sitting at home waiting for a call. A lot of what these guys do, depending on if you're a one lug changer, five lug changer, or pit crew guy, I guess I shouldn't say changer, is a lot of times what the cup guys do is the backups are technically on. I don't want to I don't want to belittle any team. Is let's say all right, Hendrick Motorsports, for example, has four in-house cup cars. They have the 5, the 24, the 48, and the 9. Um, those are your in-house cars. They also contract out to smaller teams like the 7, 77, and maybe one other. So if there's ever an issue where someone's a backup, they would get pulled off of one of these subcontracted teams and put in
Mhm.
on the in-house cup cars. For five lug crews, it kind of depends as well. Sometimes there might be quote unquote backup guys kind of floating around on other teams that are subcontracted out, and therefore they might get picked and brought over to pit, an in-house car or a primary car, I guess you could say. Like, let's say if you're in the truck series, I know some guys that pit for Joe Gibbs Racing. They do Corey Himes 11 truck. If one of them went down, they might go talk to one of their other Gibbs teams that's either not running as well or doesn't typically run as well. And they might, filter some teams around. They might even take, this is kind of a long shot idea. They sometimes might even take the whole crew and swap them, just depending on their overall time averages at the track. Instead of trying to like mix and match guys, you might just make a whole team swap. Like, hey, you're missing your Jackman this week. We're going to take the let's just say the 5 pit crew and goes to the 11 goes to the 5. And those are just numbers. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what series. That way the chemistry doesn't change for anybody except for the team that's missing a guy, and they'll just put in a filler guy. Um, but it all really depends too, because like I know I was told a few weeks ago, I think it was for Phoenix, my pit coach Danny Kincaid at Penske, he said that they had their rear changer on Blaney's car woke up with some kind of stomach virus, and he actually had to make a call at like 3 or 4 in the morning to say, "Hey, coach, I'm down. I cannot hop on this flight to go to Phoenix. You're gonna have to get someone else involved." So he made some calls and made some arrangements for people to fly out and or make changes for guys that are already going to be at the track. So it's one of those things you never want to, come across that situation just because you practice all week and all off season to be with these same guys, and then when you're making adjustments at the track, it can be difficult and it can definitely cost you positions on the track. But I think a lot of these guys, especially the really good teams, like myself with my group, they can take and plug guys in, and will be successful no matter what. That's the positive you can take from all of this.
Nice. But yeah, so Chandler Smith being the winner, that's a teammate of Riggs. And you know some of those guys, I imagine. Yeah,
hmm
that's pretty
I know
cool.
all of those guys. So we all practice together. The 34 and the 38 truck, we practice together every week. So it was really awesome to see those guys win. If the 34 couldn't win, I obviously wanted the 38 to win. So it was almost one of those moments where it was like if we did win, I was gonna be kind of like upset, but at the same time, like it was for the betterment of the team. Like if they won, I was at peace with it. But if
Yeah.
the 38 won, I was also excited for them. So it was cool no matter what.
If Riggs won, you would have had to own like, you know, Timu or what is the cheap website, Bristol sword?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it Timu or
I
something?
I possibly would have been asking for one no matter what. Like, hey
Yeah.
guys, I wasn't there, but could you also get me a sword? They probably
They
would have
just
done it.
send you
So,
like a foam sword that you'd get at the Renaissance Fair.
golly, that'd be hilarious. But yeah,
They
no
just
doubt.
write Bristol with
Yeah,
Sharpie
no
on it.
doubt. Um,
Yeah, I mean the tires strategy throughout the whole weekend was interesting in general, but specifically with the truck race, we saw Raja Caruth drive I think 120 laps plus on his tires. He led at one point with those just off of that strategy. Um, that was kind of an interesting thing, but like the fall off was just not there the whole weekend, and it which kind of led it, especially with the trucks and kind of Xfinity to one lane most of the time. I think Riggs and some other people like Larson got the top working in the trucks after a while, but I don't know. It just kind of lent itself to a single file race for a while. But yeah, I was wondering about the PJ1 that they put down. As a tire changer, is that something that you take into account for the weekend, or it doesn't change up your job that much?
So for pit stops, it doesn't change up anything really for us. I think it can play an effect. I know Lane was actually talking about his left front was basically cording
Hmm.
at lap 90 because they didn't pit under the first stage. They were pitting at the second stage. So he was cording and he was having to basically drive the yellow line to keep it like on the apron to have any grip so he didn't continue to lose
Yeah.
time on the track. But from what I know, the drivers, some like it, some don't.
I
It
don't
can
think Riggs
create
likes it that much.
it can create really good racing. I think from what the I don't know this to be for sure, and you couldn't don't quote me on this. I think when it rains, it causes issues with that stuff. Sometimes it takes it longer to come in.
Hmm.
Um, it's just not something that the drivers want to be driving on right after it's rained. It like that compound with rain and any kind of water, it doesn't mix well. So it had rained earlier on Friday, and I'm not 100% sure what the drivers thought of. I think it eventually came in during the race. But for pit stops, it can cause issues, I guess, in the sense of Lane was cording a left front. So, I mean, he could have had a flat tire at any given moment. But for an actual pit crew guy, like, for us, we still are just
Yeah.
prepared to change tires no matter what. That's just what we're there for. But
Yeah.
the
Do you
actual
see it
racing,
on the tire at all? Like, I mean, when you go to
not
Bristol
really. Not that I've
or
actually ever, I don't know if I've even ever tried to pay attention to it, but no,
Mhm.
those tires always look the same when they come off. They got marbles
They
and
make it
all sorts
sound
of
like
debris.
extremely sticky stuff. So I don't know if you
It
remember,
is really sticky. I will give you that. Like we actually use some of it in certain pit stalls at certain tracks that
yeah.
are so there's certain pit boxes at certain racetracks have a finer grit concrete for the pit
Hmm.
box. So Las Vegas, Phoenix, and one other. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's one other that's typically really, really fine grit.
Dover,
It's a slicker concrete
Martinsville,
instead of being gritty. I want to say the other one's Miami. Could be wrong.
Eldora.
Eldora. Yeah, totally. Um, but yeah,
Well, they make it
there's two
sound
of
like
them.
really sticky. So every time they like talk about it, I just imagine the Little Giants scene from the movie The Little
That's
Giants, where the
almost like
kid
what
just
it's
gets the
supposed to be
tar on his
like.
hands.
It's
Yeah.
almost like what it's like. If you can go too heavy. Honestly, if you do too much,
Yeah.
it ends up backfiring and then you'll blow an ACL running around the car.
Yeah.
So you do a really thin coat over the pit box. So one, help the driver stop because if the pit box is really slick, just natural the grain of how the concrete is laid.
Mm.
Um, and then also for us to have grip, because we're making lateral movements around a car. We're running like this around the front of a car,
Yeah.
or even the rear of the car. So all that being said, we do actually take that same traction compound for the most part, and we lay it down in our pit stalls too to help us as well.
Nice. All right. Well, a couple of the good finishers, I guess, from the truck race would be Carruth and Caden Honeycutt. Uh, yeah, I was kind of surprised by them a little bit, especially Carruth just leading all those laps on that strategy. It just really was a big note for me from the race. But let's move on to the Xfinity Series, where Larson wins, dominates. Uh, really, it looked a lot like Homestead at one point. I think he lapped all the way up to 12th. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so, but yeah, he came in, he did his thing, he did the Larson
He Larsened
dominance.
everybody.
Yeah. Uh, Poole's the wreck with Creed and Brendan Poole, that was just an unfortunate situation. But I mean, that was a scary looking hit. I didn't catch if Poole's comments on it. Actually, the Xfinity race I wasn't able to watch due to I just had to work this past Saturday. Um, but one thing I
Yeah.
did notice by just going through the highlights and some of the, like the looking at the qualifying versus the finish was I saw Zilic. He finished outside the top 10 after qualifying on the front row. Uh, but yeah, Carson Quatful got up to second. A great race for him. I think that's his best finish so far.
Man,
Um,
Carson Kvapil has had a black cloud over his head from last year, even to some races this year. He's been up front, he's been fast, and
yeah.
something goes wrong. I'll give you an example. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, Atlanta, maybe a different race, maybe it was Vegas. I know the gas man. He's my buddy. His name is Bobby. He got hit by a tire, if I'm not mistaken. that came down pit road. It got loose. It hit him. He fell and was like he kept the fuel can engaged with the car, but he was supposed to unplug and go back and get his second can. And since he fell and stayed plugged in, he was late to getting the second can and coming back and plugging in. Comes back, engages with the second can as they finish the pit stop.
Gets
But
hit by
Carson
another tire.
that would be something, man, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh. But no, Carson ran out of gas with like 3 laps to go
Uh,
because of that issue on pit road. That's just
yeah.
one of the many things I've seen to
Wow.
happen to Carson. I think Carson is a wheelman. I don't know him personally. I've never really talked to him, but just from seeing like the car he's had to like how fast he is or how much he stays at the front, his
Well,
day's coming. He's gonna get a win, and
oh
it
yeah.
just made me laugh that he's had just such bad luck for so many of the races he's ran in.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think he's one of the best rookies that are in the Xfinity series, particularly right now. Like he's pretty consistently running in the top 15, I would say. Just depends on the track. Like Bristol's right in his wheelhouse, Martinsville's right in his wheelhouse. But overall, like for someone to come in from the late model series and come into these, I mean, obviously Bristol and Martinsville, like I said, play into those. Richmond plays into those, but to go to the bigger tracks, I think he's adapting very well. Uh, but yeah, as we did see Larson lead pretty much all the laps. I mean, Allgaier and Sammy Smith, or not Sammy Smith, but Sam Mayer, um, led out some laps. I think Mayer won the first stage. But one thing I noticed was, is it Chandler X or
Eckes,
Eckes?
Christian Eckes.
Christian Eckes. Wow, sorry. Uh,
Sorry, Christian, if you're listening to this.
yeah, my bad. But I
Chandler
wanted,
X.
yeah, Chandler X. Wow.
Shout out to Chandler X, whoever you
I
are.
should probably print out the full names at this point.
Maybe you should. That's a tip for next week.
Yeah. But yeah, he went a lap down at one point, but came back to finish ninth. So that was a pretty good race for him. And Corey Heim and Dean Thompson, I believe they're teammates, right? At
So
Sam
Corey
Hunt.
Heim, the 24 is a part-time car for Sam
Yeah.
Hunt. I know Dean Thompson is their full-time car. And yeah, I saw that Corey finished eighth and Dean finished 10th. So
Yeah. It's a very good race for
what
them.
from what Sam was saying on his social media accounts, that was the first time they've ever had both cars finish inside the top 10 for Sam Hunt Racing, which is pretty cool. Good job,
Hmm.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very cool to see. But also, the 39 car, see, he had a pretty good finish as well. He's someone that I feel like he's always running up there, but like something happens in that third stage and he gets taken back down. Uh,
Good
also,
old Ryan.
I wanted to give Carson a shout out in the one car. That High Rock scheme was actually pretty cool. I liked it a
I've seen
lot.
that scheme a few times, and yeah, I have to agree that's a good scheme.
The
That's one of
orange sticks
it's a
out in a good
solid
way.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Uh, you don't have to answer this, but what Xfinity rookies, and we can even say truck rookies too, or truck, I'll say truck racers, and Xfinity rookies, do you think have good potential? Like for instance, Corey Heim obviously has a lot of potential. Uh,
Corey Heim, I've always thought is going to be a really good driver, no matter what series he's in.
hmm
I think, along with there's several guys to be honest. Nick Sanchez, he's shown that he can drive in that 48
Yeah,
Xfinity car. He's pretty good. But I mean, I don't really know if I have a great opinion on that. I don't try to look at anybody
go ahead.
in
Name
ways
names.
that I don't really ever see anybody that I can think of off the top of my head that is either just really bad or someone that just is a really standout driver. I mean, Lane, Chandler, both are great. Corey's
Zillage
been a
stands out to me. I mean, he's obviously great at road courses, but he's really starting to run well at ovals. I mean, I don't think his finishes are speaking for it, but he reminds me a lot of SVG, not because they're Red Bull partners and are advertised pretty much together, but I think he has that like focus and maturity to just learn in the race
yeah.
rather than just you drive the wheels off of it kind of deal.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
he's definitely a very good driver. I think there's several drivers in the next coming years that'll get called up to either Xfinity or Cup, and they'll be fast no matter what.
yeah. I'm just waiting for Justin Allgaier to be able to get up into the Cup Series. I really think he's put in his time.
Yeah, he was definitely he's put in his time. I think he likes the Xfinity series,
No, he
man.
does. He very much. It was like, well. my
I think
wife.
Eric Almirola is the same way. I think he likes running the Xfinity series over the Cup Series.
I
He
think
just
all the Cup Series drivers are a little bit that way
like
right
going down
now.
to that lower series.
Well,
Bro,
I
I'm
think
not
it's just going
kidding.
back to the
I'm not
car.
kidding when I say this. Like 30 minutes ago before we hopped on here, I saw a video, and this may be AI, but I looked at it for a good 15 or 20 seconds. It was a little soundbite clip of Larson on Happy Hour with Harvick,
Yeah.
and he said he likes to go to the Xfinity series and embarrass people.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
And I was like, is he actually saying this? Like, this is for real?
Well, it was a good point in my opinion. I mean, sure, being a fan, I am a bit biased, but it's also the idea of going down there because he said he doesn't want these guys to get like complacent and thinking that they're really, really good, but only racing people that are same level as them. And so
Yeah.
he's like, I like to go down there, run 10 seconds ahead of them, and show them that they're not like where they think they are. And so it's like
I
I
love
mean,
that.
yeah, because I had some friends like I've had a friend come over before, and he's like, "Why does someone like Larson go down to the or Kurt Busch go down to all the way to the trucks and then go and
Mm.
sit in there and dominates?" And he's like, "That's just unfair." But it's also if I mean, a lot of the trucks and Xfinity drivers have said they want to race the Kurt Busches, the Kyle Larsons, all them. That way they can learn and see where they're not. Uh,
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, they're not. That's not a series to just stay in. At least that's what the system is supposed to be. You're supposed to go up and learn. I mean, unless you're Matt Crafton or Justin Allgaier, you just are like, I like it here. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
some people just find their home and I think it also goes hand in hand with what team they're with. A lot of those guys, they find a team they really like and a spot that it just fits them. I think
yeah,
Justin Allgaier with JR Motorsports and someone like Matt Crafton that is just been with Thor Sport for, I think, I don't even know how many years. It's got to be at least 10 or 11.
yeah,
As long as I've been in the sport, I think Matt Crafton has been with Thor Sport. So,
yeah.
I mean,
He's
that's
found
12
his home.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been there for forever.
Well, yeah. It's also this idea of I think either Allgaier said it. I think someone said it where it's like you can be really good at one series or be back of the pack in the series above it.
I think that was Corey LaJoy or something. They were
Or
saying
maybe,
like, do you want to run up front in the lower series or do you want to run mid
yeah,
pack, back of the field in the Cup series? So,
yeah. Which I get that it's kind it's this constant climbing of the ladder, and you get to Xfinity and it pays probably the best you've been paid at some points. But yeah, when I see Allgaier, because I've seen some people complain that Allgaier he is one of the best, if not the best, Xfinity driver, week in or week out, and people are like, oh, he's been in this for so long. It's like okay, like let him. Like this is a learning series. If they can beat them, then that's a good thing. If they can't beat them, then they have something to learn from.
right.
Um, yeah, but yeah, that's really it for the Xfinity race. I mean, again, same thing with tire wear. We really didn't see much fall off. But also taking place on Saturday was the Cup practice, and that's why I invited people over again this weekend. Um, Spoiler alert, none of them came over, and I'm glad. But watching some of the practice I could watch on Saturday, I was like, oh man, here it comes. We're going back to last year's spring. Um, and so let's transition with that into the Cup race, where that just did not happen. Larson saw that about 30 laps in and just went for it and never looked back, really, is what happened with that. Kyle Larson led 411 laps. Yeah. I mean, being
How
biased,
many
being
laps did he lead
411
out of 500?
out of 500. I can't remember I mean, it was 400 and
I mean,
something back in the fall as
that's like
well.
75+%. So,
Out of the
good
1,000
job,
laps we
Kyle.
have run between the last two Bristol races, Kyle Larson has led almost 900 laps of it.
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I'm glad my friends didn't come over to watch this
I'm
one.
glad the 38 won on Friday night. Not to say that I don't want to see Larson be a part of the three-peat. That'd be cool.
It would have been
But
cool at Homestead, but with the way this
yeah.
Bristol race played out, it was kind of like it
Well,
could have
no, it
been,
wasn't cool at Homestead because you know who Kyle Larson passed to win that race?
oh,
Me.
Riggs.
He passed
Yeah,
me.
you sat there just watching like son of a
The ups and downs. All right, so backstory on this for everybody that's listening. About 3 weeks ago, we were in Miami. We were probably a second to third place truck all night. The 11 was king of the field. The 17 really wasn't, or no, he was in the 7 that night, I think, or the '07. He wasn't really a factor. He was there in the beginning. He spun. He had to start at the back, however many laps into this race. and he starts driving to the front with like 10 to go. The 11 has an RPM issue. It
Yeah.
sputters. We catch up to the 11. We pass him, and then he passes us back with like 3 to go. We pass him again because the 11 has another issue with his
Hmm.
RPM, his tack, whatever was going on with that truck. He sputters. We pass him, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna pull out this win!" Like
Yeah.
it was just a total luck win. Like we were not the best truck, but we were there.
And then
And
you just started hearing
two to
Freebird in
go,
the distance.
2 to go. I see us coming off turn four. Larson's like 10 to 15 back, and even our spotter, he was like, the set Larson's 15 back. Come back to the line. So it might have been 4 to go, 3 to go.
Yeah.
I see him 15 back, 2 to go. He's a car behind us.
Yeah.
And I was like, we are toast. Like we're sitting
Yeah.
ducks, man. And sure enough, going down into turn one, Larson passes us, and I was
Well,
like, oh my gosh.
well,
But ended up finishing second. So
I think, I mean, going back, we didn't actually talk about Homestead because this podcast didn't even exist at the time. But I think Hamlin said when he watched the truck race, he was like, yeah, Larson just ran the bottom the whole time. And then when he actually had to start to get going, he started running the top and then just like passed him all. He's like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seemed like a nice thing for him to do until he actually had
what a
to
sandbagger.
yeah. Yeah. But
Dang, Larson. Come on, man.
yeah, so back to Bristol. I will say, like in the practice we saw on Saturday, we saw the tire wear, but then going even to qualifying, going into it, I I would have put my money on Larson to get the three-peat if he had a better starting position for qualifying, because I was watching something throughout the week and they were like, yeah, I don't think Larson will qualify well, which this being a very track position dependent race, more than likely that him starting there won't, or him qualifying really far back won't help. That being said, Bowman got the pole, and Bowman was a couple cars after Larson qualifying, and Larson got third qualifying. And I watched them, but I couldn't watch all of qualifying, so I watched them qualifying. Then I had to get going. And so when I came back after work, I looked at the starting position. I was like, so no one did better in qualifying than them, which I was really surprised by because it was just again just very interesting in that way. To see because I was anticipating them to start in the teens or so at best. Uh, Also, I think Logano had an issue in practice for qualifying. I didn't catch it, but he had a horrible race. Just never got back up there. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. I know that Ford has struggled a little bit this year. I don't know if it's an engine thing or if they're trying to make some changes and seeing what works, if they're doing some R&D, but
Yeah, they
yeah,
did
Ford
struggle at
hasn't.
Bristol. They didn't really do anything. I mean, Blaney ran up front for a little bit. That was just strategy, though.
Yeah, I know it's definitely been a Toyota and Chevy season so far, no doubt. Fords haven't really been much of a factor.
Has a
No,
Ford won?
nothing. No, I don't believe so. I think
Yeah,
what's it? Bell's got three, Denny's got two,
Larson's got
Larson,
two.
Larson's
Byron's
got
got
two.
two.
Byron won Daytona. What else did he win?
Oh my gosh, we shouldn't be doing this on
We
air.
really shouldn't. But yeah, I don't think a
We
Ford's
know
won.
what we're talking about.
I know that I think I saw a stat yesterday where Ford hasn't won yet. It was like 5 or 6 for Toyota and 2 or 3 for
It's so
Chevy.
frustrating because this was the same thing last season. They come in with a new body style, but then they don't win up until Darlington. So they're even, I guess, doing worse than last year. Um, and then by the end of the season they win the championship. Good on them, but it's annoying.
Is what it is,
But
man. They'll
it
figure it
is,
out.
yeah. There's a lot of
Those dang
factors.
engineers.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so bad race for Logano. He just never really. I think they were. I saw that going into the race, they're like, yeah, we have a plan in place, especially if it's a tire wear race. We know what we're gonna do, but then it just didn't pan out that way, and he stayed in the back all day. Um, yeah. Then Bowman's car blew up at one point. Just
I
had
did hear
engine
about
problem. Yeah,
that.
which was just that must be the worst feeling for a racer is your car blowing up, and particularly at a place like Bristol where the laps are so short, you could just keep going until you feel like you can't continue. And I think it was, I mean, it was probably like 40 laps, at least that's what it felt like 40 laps of him just like almost at half pace around the field. And I was like, this must be such a sucky feeling. It's like Larson
Yeah.
driving 160 laps down at Darlington. It's like, well, what am I here for?
Yeah, for real. No, I actually have a small story for that. So back in I think it was 2016, I was pitting Christopher Bell in the ARCA series at like Salem.
I didn't know that.
It was an ARCA race in Salem, Indiana, and he went down a cylinder. So he drove around on 7 cylinders at this track. It was a short track, but he had enough power that all he had to do was basically never lift. Instead of like throttle brake,
Mm,
he just throttled through every corner and we ended up winning the race. So I
oh,
guess
wow.
there are some advantages for if your engine's going bad or if you drop a cylinder at certain tracks, you can get away with it.
There,
That's something that I actually hadn't really ever seen until that day, and it always
yeah.
stuck out to me that, depending on overall average speed and stuff, you can limp it home or you can maybe just run it out and get a win, which that happened to us that day.
Well, yeah, I did see with Bowman particularly, like I don't think he had to throttle up or brake in the corner, or maybe just stay in the throttle in the corners. At least that's what it seemed like because he would lose so much on the straights, but then in the turns he actually like kept up with him, and it was like, oh, I guess
Yep.
he's matching that speed in the corner, but yeah, I mean, not a great race for Bowman or Logano, but particularly Byron and Chastain, they did not qualify well, like all the way back in like the 20s, maybe even 30s. I didn't write down their positions, but they came back to finish sixth for Byron and seventh for Chastain. And that was pretty impressive because watching, my wife is a Chase Elliott fan, and Chase Elliott just stayed between 15th to 20th the whole race. Whereas Byron starting in the 20s farther back than him, he was able to drive back up and through it. And it was really interesting, but it also made me question like people complain about Bristol and they're like, it's not you're not able to pass at
Hmm.
Bristol in this package. But then you see people like Chastain and Byron who were able to work the way back up with very minimal like pit stop strategies and cautions to go off of, but they were somehow able to work their way back up. And that's one thing where as the race was dominated by Larson yesterday, and if you're not a fan of Larson or even like him, it was probably a horrible race. I would probably be feeling a bit different if someone like Hamlin won, or I mean anybody. I mean, there's very few drivers I would like to see do that, but yeah, I don't know. It kind of like it was interesting. If we had more races like this, I would want to see how it plays out because also this style or the style of race we saw yesterday. I'm saying yesterday. It's going to come out on Wednesday. We're recording on Monday, but the kind of race we saw, I think Cliff Daniels said like this was kind of like an old Bristol style of race. I think he referenced a 2004 race that he watched at Bristol and just said
Was
it
that
was
the Dale
down.
Jr. race?
Yeah, where Rusty Wallace
Junior.
dominates the whole time and then bad pit stop at the junior wins or something like
Mm,
that. And so he was like, technically this was the good old days of Bristol,
yeah.
but
I think that some people get mired in the an idea of, this is what it should be like and this instant gratification, like we want to see action packed all
yeah.
the time. At least that's kind of maybe over the last 10 to 15 years I kind of have seen that, and maybe from a once fan to now I work in the sport perspective, it's
Hmm.
definitely ramped up in that mentality. But, at the same time, I've grown up to also enjoy when teams just have like that it factor that weekend. Like we
Yeah.
could talk about Jimmy Johnson in the late 2000s, just almost every week, or you could say Jeff Gordon, you could say Kevin Harvick, whoever. When they just brought a car that was like, man, they
Casey
got the car.
Mears at that one Coca-Cola 600.
That was a fuel mileage race. Um, but yeah, you just gotta admire when people like they found something that just made them a little bit better than everyone,
Yeah.
and that whole weekend everybody's gonna try to knock them off. And when that team that comes to the track ready to go and they unload and they're fast, and they actually execute everything. That's almost to me, it's from either a pit crew standpoint or a fan, you can admire it. You can say like, man, those guys just they were unbeatable. Or if you're a part of it and you actually went out there and executed, whether it's pit crew, road crew, crew chief, driver, like that's a good feeling when you everything comes together and like y'all all execute.
Yeah.
That's when like that team and unity feels the best. It's like, man, we put it on them this week and they know we were there. That's stuff that I actually enjoy.
Yeah, I've come to appreciate it even when like a driver that I like is not the dominant one. And I like Hamlin uh in some ways. Like he's a I think he's gotten a lot better for me over the years. I like the way he loses now, which is a weird thing to say. I don't mind when he wins, but like all the way back in Martinsville when he was pretty much the dominant car all day. Probably wasn't as dominant as we saw out of Larson. I think
Hmm.
he led less laps, but but still, like I appreciated that, like, okay, like this was just a good execution all day, and I appreciate that more rather than maybe
Absolutely.
what happened at Darlington, where it was just a good pit stop at the end, but like he wasn't up front all day. Um, Again, still great on the pit crew, but it was like we didn't see Hamlin just dominating. We saw other cars as well, but yeah, watching the race again, being a fan of the driver who wins, it's fun to watch them always be in the lead, but at the same time you had the factor of traffic, and we saw whenever Larson was in heavy traffic, I think it would have happened to anybody, but like Denny Hamlin got back up to under half a second at one point, and
Hmm.
so any mistake for Larson, he was going to lose it, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think with like 11 to go, he slipped and almost hit the wall, and
That'd have been something, man. Another Denny Hamlin win
oh, I
just
was
like
sitting there
that.
just like this. If it was to happen, it would happen now. Like this is such a Larson thing to do. Like have a dominant car, but then just slip up. I mean, I was having like flashes back to like a couple years ago at Homestead, whenever he had a good car, but just was trying to run down Blaney, and then his excuse or his tactic to gain seconds on him was to run it hard into pit and ran right into the sand barrels.
Yep.
Gosh, I was so mad because I was like, oh, I thought we had a chance. But yeah, that being said, like I think I would have felt a little bit different, but not terribly different. If this was 3 years ago, I would have called this in a boring race that needs to be fixed. I now say it's a boring race. If you can fix it, do it. We saw a couple glimpses of, tires being a good option to add in another racing factor. But
Yeah, I agree.
it,
You could definitely go with like a tire degradation, um, something that a tire that's less got less grit, something that's going to fall off
yeah.
faster, or you could do an engine tuning where you have more horsepower. Maybe that little bit of horsepower can allow guys to make a run on someone.
Well, it also wear the tires a bit more, from what I understand, right?
Probably. I've actually never thought of it like that for this said situation, but yeah, absolutely. I think that could be
I think it was
something to be looked
Harvick
at.
that commented that if they had more power, then
It,
they would squeal the tire or
it'd have like
like
more torque and more.
yeah, spin the
It'd be
tires
running
more,
at
I should say.
higher RPMs and stuff too.
Yeah. That's one thing I personally is only being a fan since the last year of the last generation car. I don't know what they called it, but and now being a fan, being a consistent fan, watching almost every race, and with this next gen car, I really do. I mean, I sometimes take advantage of the Tubi NASCAR channel. I was watching a little bit of it today, which is a really cool thing if you want to get a feel for what races were like.
Tubi, like TUBI, like
Yeah,
that.
like the free streaming
Gotcha.
service. They have a NASCAR channel and they will they'll do, I don't know when they do it, but they'll play the previous weekend's race. And then they'll play races that lead into, for instance, I was watching Rockingham from like the
Okay.
90s. I
Yeah.
think it was 94. Um, just today, just had it on in the background, but I would catch it. And again, every time I watch one of these old races, it reminds me of what we saw on Sunday. Like, it was
Hmm.
very different in the way of equipment back then. It was very much an engineering sport too. Uh, and there'd just be a dominant car that would lap so many cars, and there would be the few that would be like the Hendricks or Penske's that we would consider today. I mean, Hendrick was both those teams were big back then, but then they would be the ones battling it out, or to
Hmm.
some degree. And in ways, I like that, but then there's also the idea I do like that everyone being on the same level. Let's really see who the best is here. But I don't know. Racing is a hard sport to balance, I'll say.
You'll never make everybody happy. You
No.
gotta at least play either by the budget or and also try to make the teams and the fans happy, but you're never gonna make everyone happy. It's
And
just not gonna happen.
there's also the saying, I might butcher it, where it's the way you catch them is the way you have to keep them. And
Mm.
so, if, for instance, me bringing newbies over to NASCAR and they watch a Daytona race and they see big crash. They just
Or like
see,
pack racing.
yeah, pack racing, big crashes, cars flip, cars get torn up. It looks dangerous, it looks fun, or it looks intimidating. But then you watch Bristol and you're like, this is literally circles at this point. And
Yeah, 100%.
and if you don't know the strategies and if you don't know the variables, it's just like, okay, like this doesn't even seem hard anymore. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it's that weird balance. And like you said, like honestly, motorsports is not for everybody. I particularly don't watch F1. I kind of oddly keep up with it. It's in my YouTube algorithm, so I just naturally see it
Dude, don't get me
sometimes.
started on F1. That is my favorite stuff lately. I
Yeah.
could I could watch it all day. I could play the sim all day.
Well,
I
one of
love
my
it.
fans, it's so fun to play it, but one of my friends who he started out by getting into F1 through Drive to Survive, the YouTube
It's kind
series.
of exactly how I got into it as well.
But then he started watching the races and he was like, I got bored because they would just single
Oh,
file, like, yeah, like he just
I could watch it all day long.
Uh, but then he watched NASCAR with me, and he was like, I like this racing product more." And that's how I feel. Like I've watched a couple F1 races when I can catch them, or I'll go and watch the highlights. And I am still like that style of driving is insane. And we watched the last couple laps of the Long Beach Grand Prix, if that's what they
Okay.
call it. And Lindsay was even like, "Wow, these cars are really fast." But then I was like, "Yes, but." It's not. I like the oval track racing product honestly a little bit better, and there's some similarities there. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure why I got into liking F1 so much and even Indy. I'll be honest, I don't know if it's maybe because I've been in NASCAR for so long. I've seen so many races
yeah,
firsthand and oval races that something about the F1 style of racing. But I'll be honest, the real thing that got me hooked was the Drive to Survive was like this in-depth look at their how they race, the car, how high tech it is. But then I
yeah,
got to play, I started doing iRacing and stuff, and I got to play like drive an F1 car. And I really, really enjoyed it. I think Jimmy Johnson was one of the people that started talking about this a few years ago, why he went and ran IndyCar for a while is he loves to be able to play with the brake pedal. And I was like, I wonder what he means by that. And so then about 6 months ago, I got my sim rig, and the first thing I went and did was test out the F1 car and
hmm
how fast it, even though I'm not in an actual F1 car, but how like it responsive it is. It's like you can
yeah,
stop on a dime, you can turn on a dime, and you can drive it as hard as you want when a cup car or anything heavy, a stock car of any kind, or you could even go say like a GP series, IMSA, whatever. These cars are heavier. That the F1 car is just built for racing,
yeah.
and it's just so much fun that like anytime I hop in something else in iRacing, I'm just like, man, this isn't quite as fun as that
Oh,
F1
really?
car.
I mean,
But it's being
maybe,
able to just drive and you're downshifting, you're doing so much stuff all at once that makes
yeah.
it fun for me. And I think that's why I enjoy it.
I kind of have the not the opposite reaction. Was I've when I was over, I played your sim rig, and I immediately took the next gen car to Darlington because I was like,
Let's
let's
see what
see
this thing
what
can
this
do.
is like. And yeah, it's I got like, 4 laps in and just randomly started spinning. I couldn't tell you what I did wrong. But and I've played the F1 car. I think you you put me on the F1 car at Bristol.
Oh
Which
yeah.
we should see that race. Yeah, that's what like take
It
Las
will
Vegas
never
out.
happen. It will never happen, but
I
that
would
would
love it.
be that would be insane.
Uh, yeah, totally different disciplines, but a little bit off track. To bring it
Sorry
back
about
and
that.
wrap up Bristol. No, all good. Bring it back to Bristol. Gibbs gets a top five.
Ty, good job,
Yeah,
dude.
finally getting in there. Briscoe continues some consistency. Blaney rebounds to fifth after doing a uh, pretty intense strategy. Honestly, I thought he was just. I mean, he was hoping for that caution to come out. He had put everyone a lap down, but unfortunately, it wasn't the race for that. Like I said, Byron and Chastain came up through the field, and then ninth and 10th were AJ Allmendinger and Austin Dillon. Very good finishes for them, and I think Allmendinger came out with the fastest lap. So pretty
He
good
did.
race
I
for
did see
him
that.
past couple
Good stuff,
weeks.
guys.
Well, actually, I don't know where he finished in Darlington, but I think he had a good finish at Homestead. I want to say like eighth. Um, yeah. Hopefully they can figure something out with Bristol. Yeah. I one thing I really noticed was the attendance is just not there, um, which is very unfortunate. I remember Bristol being such a monumental race growing up for us. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean that
just
was
sad
always
to
a
see.
that was always a, everybody marks their calendar for Bristol. And even the old throwback pictures you'll see 15 years ago it was slam packed.
And it's a cool venue. I mean, I've only been once. I think we went and watched well, at the time it was probably a nationwide race, but I've only been once. And I remember it's a cool environment and atmosphere, which this can lead into one of the questions I have. But it's an environment that I would totally take a newbie to. But just the
Absolutely.
racing product is
It can be kind of
I don't even want to call it boring because I
You like it?
I liked it, but it's just knowing somebody who, if they just don't know motorsports in the way of like the visually, it can just be really boring. It's kind of like golf, where it's probably more fun to play than it is to actually watch if you don't know
I
what's
think though,
happening.
I'll say this, there's an element like there's the X factor of you're there, and that's what a lot of people talk
Oh
about like
yeah.
hockey. Like hockey you might not like on TV, you go watch it in person, they're like, man, it's so much better.
Well, that's what
So
I noticed whenever, like, I was in Daytona in February. I didn't get to stay for the 500, but one thing I realized, particularly with that, and I was also there back in August, was being at the track. I love the environment. You're in the nitty gritty of it all. Like, I don't even, you're at Daytona, you only see a second of the 50-second lap every time. And I honestly have to go back and watch the highlights to actually really figure out what happened, because you don't really know if someone I don't know, there's some factors that, like, I remember back in August when SVG like blew up and he just came in smoking. I was like, oh, so he's out. Whereas
yeah,
on TV I would have seen that on the backstretch, but it's
yeah.
still just the environment of all is so cool when you can feel the car, when you can just see these split seconds decisions is really cool. But yeah, so I had a question on here. What is a track you would recommend to a newbie that doesn't know much about motorsports?
That
And
is a tough one. Yeah, if you're thinking like maybe venue, Bristol's a really good one to go to just because it's cool.
yeah,
Maybe racing product could be good, maybe not. I think that's a given though with any track you go to. Some races are going to be great. Some races
yeah,
are going to be there's some Daytona and Talladega races that like they have one caution and it's not even a big wreck,
yeah,
and that's just how it plays out. But I don't know. There's a few I might would say Indy because just the heritage behind Indy. That's an
yeah,
amazing one. Daytona for the venue. You have so much space. Like you're not crammed inside. Like Bristol, if you got a pit pass, you really are only seeing the haulers and then the racetrack. Daytona has an infield where there's
yeah,
um, the fan area that you can walk around in.
yeah.
Talladega has redone their stuff too to have a better fan
Oh,
area, fan experience. So I don't know. There's a few. I would say those three or four are really good. I'm trying to think of another one that's got a really. Phoenix has done a pretty good job of having a cool fan zone
I've
as
heard theirs
well over
is
the
cool.
years. It's pretty nice. I do like that.
Part of me, I mean, I don't know as much of about the tracks as you do, obviously. I mean, I've only been to a handful, but I mean, I really like the infield of Daytona. Um, I've been on the infield of Charlotte a couple times when you snuck me in. Uh, and that one's cool, but it's pretty basic, I feel like.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's pretty simple.
Whereas
Nothing crazy.
Daytona has, you have a chance if you don't have the pit pass like I get. Uh, if you're just in the garages, you do have a chance to be able to get like autographs at their windows with the slots underneath, kind of like a bank teller situation. Um, but honestly, I'm trying to think of a track that has a good racing product with a good facility. I kind of say Darlington. I haven't been there, but what I like about particularly Throwback Weekend is you get the heritage of NASCAR as well as a potentially really good racing product and what a lot of racing analysts for NASCAR consider a driver's track. Like you
Yeah.
have to be able to handle your car to make it. Um,
Yeah, and Darlington also has the old throwback look. Like there's a lot of
mhm.
nostalgia when you get to the track.
That's
There's
my
old
only issue is it's the
buildings.
only one that probably really would feel like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Martinsville is kind of the same way, but very simple, as in it's just the grandstands. There's really
Yeah.
nothing else there. There's a fan zone outside the track at Martinsville where they
Mhm.
have the haulers for memorabilia, and then they have like little concerts and stuff for there.
Yeah.
So.
Is
I don't know. Honestly, it depends on the person. Like, who wants to go to a race? Because I could say this: if you're kind of like a party person, you like to go out and drink beer and like go to concerts.
yeah.
I'm taking you to Talladega, and we're gonna go hang out on Talladega Boulevard. So,
Yeah.
depends on the person.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've always wondered if Kansas is a cool venue. I've driven past it on my one of my cross country trips, but I like the racing part. I look forward to that race right now. Um,
Kansas is a solid venue, man. Overall,
yeah,
really,
really.
really good.
It's kind
Thin
of in the middle of
track.
nowhere, if I remember right.
Kansas is, I wouldn't say it's in the middle of nowhere. They've built a lot of stuff. There's a lot of like shopping plazas and restaurants outside of like the track, like right there within a
Hmm.
mile.
Like an
So it's actually
Applebee's,
there's like anything you can think of, man. They
Golden
got it
Corral.
all.
Mm.
Probably not a Golden Corral.
If you just put one Golden Corral, you've kind of covered every base. Let's be honest.
It's a buffet, so you got it
Yeah,
all.
let's be honest. Maybe a Ryan's, if that's, I don't know if that's North
I don't know if
Carolina
that's a thing or
local.
not.
It's definitely not in California, I'll say that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, yeah, hopefully short tracks can improve a bit. Again, I'm not gonna everyone's gonna
Not
put
gonna knock
down
it.
everyone's gonna knock this Bristol race, but there are some people who are talking about the good side of this race, and I feel and hope we did that. But coming up, talk about some throwback venues. Rockingham. Are you excited? Like, I have you ever pitted
Yes.
Rockingham?
Never pitted at
No.
Rockingham. I know there's been a couple of truck races there. I don't know if I was even asked to go pit them or if we were able to pit. I want to say those
They
were
probably went, just didn't tell you.
maybe they just said, "Hey, don't let that guy know."
Don't let redhead freak over
But
there.
I'm actually really excited to go see this place. I haven't seen it in person ever. I want to say I don't even know if I've driven by it, to be honest. If I
I
did, it was
feel
a
like
long
we
time
have.
ago. If I did, it was a long time ago, and I do not remember.
Well,
But
I feel
I am
like
excited to see it.
growing up when we lived in North Carolina, well, you still do, but when we would go on race or trips, I didn't know where we were, but I remember driving past a
Certain
track, and I
tracks
think it was Rockingham was one of them.
could be. Yeah,
But
I'm excited to see what it is.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Casey Kane's returning, so add to the throwback of NASCAR and the heritage. But watching the race today, actually, I kind of hope Rockingham puts on a good product because the configuration for it seems to be prime for this next gen car. I don't know if the facility is ready. Um, I know they've repaved the track and kind of updated it. But just the fig configuration, it kind of, if I remember right, it looks like Richmond's. It's kind of that same
It's very
small
much built
trioval,
like Richmond. Yeah,
but it's got more
I want to
banking to
say
it.
it's got more banking than Richmond, and I think a little bit tighter corners.
Mm.
But yeah, it's kind of like a Richmond for sure.
Yeah. I like it's one of those venues where I hope it's good enough to where they can put on a full on weekend for it.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I am also someone that's like, okay, let's venture out of North Carolina. If I lived in North Carolina, I'd probably feel little bit different. But right now I'm in Southern California and they just ripped to shreds the track that was out here. So
they did. They
Herbie
don't even
Fully
know what they're
Loaded
gonna
2
do with
can't
it.
film at Fontana anymore.
I
Uh,
actually saw a clip from Ford versus Ferrari like
yeah.
yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, there's Fontana," and I was like, "It is no longer there."
Yeah. You know, in 40 Ferrari, I watched that and I was just getting into NASCAR at the time. But even then, when they're like, they're racing at Daytona, that's not Daytona.
Yeah, it's
That's
not. But
Fontana. Also,
oh
like
well.
when you know, granted, I don't know if at that time Daytona's road course was the same configuration, but it's also like, that's not Daytona. Like,
Yeah,
I know those turns. You can't fool me, Hollywood. Christian Bale. Uh, yeah, so I hope Rockingham is good. I'm definitely going to be watching. But yeah, also Cup is off this Sunday, but the only Sunday that they'll be off.
the whole year.
Yeah. When's your next off weekend? Do you know?
I don't have one.
Oh, you don't have one.
We don't have a designated off weekend the whole year. If you work in Truck and Xfinity, you will have a race every weekend until October 30, until Halloween night. That's when our season ends, is
Mm,
Halloween night. If I'm not mistaken, or it's November 1st, Xfinity ends.
all right.
So,
Do you have any picks for Rockingham? Don't be biased.
oh, you know who I'm gonna pick.
Casey
34
Kane. Oh,
Lane Riggs and Jeremy Clements. We're going to the front, man. Going to the
I,
front, staying there, taking the checkered.
I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna go with Riggs again. Uh, actually, no, I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna say Ben Rhodes for trucks And I'm going to be biased on Kane. I want Casey Kane to win Rockingham. I think that would just be
Okay.
fun. Uh, yeah. So
Very cool.
looking forward
Great
to it.
week.
Yeah.
Nothing super exciting to talk about from Bristol, but I think it was some old school racing. I enjoyed it. I was sad I couldn't go, but I'm no matter what, it's you can always be thankful for something. And I thought it was overall solid racing if you like old school,
Yeah.
vintage racing.
Yeah, very much. Something that should have happened at Darlington. That's where it would fit, you know? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
but all right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Episode 2 is a
Episode two.
wrap.
Yep.
Thank you, Owen. Catch you
All
later,
right.
man.
See you.
See you, buddy.
Bye.